Well, the Ohio State Buckeyes fall in incredibly disappointing fashion, and it's by a score of 13-10 to the Michigan Wolverines in the game. Unbelievably disappointing. I'm at a loss for words for what Ohio State just experienced, but we're going to dive into the numbers and break it all down on this episode of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All-Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Well, welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast. Anthony Moeglin here with you for a post-game episode, a live reaction episode after we just watched our Ohio State Buckeyes fall to the Michigan Wolverines 13-10 in a game that can only be summed up in one word: disappointing. It was disappointing from the start to the finish, and Ohio State can't get over the hump of this Michigan team. Ryan Day drops his fourth straight to the Wolverines here, and it's 3 in a row now. 2 in a row now here at Ohio Stadium. And there's a lot of places to go with this, and we're gonna talk about it all. But where I do want to start is that this is obviously I'm running solo here, so jump into that comment section. I want to make this as interactive as I can with you guys. So jump into the comments. I'm sure you have a lot of things to say. So if you keep it PG, I'll bring it up on the screen here, and we'll chat about it here just to get your thoughts on what we saw. But where I want to start is with the game plan, right? I don't know. We're not in the meeting rooms all week long, but from what we could see, and what the goal was of this game was to get the run game established, and they kept going towards it. I mean, it was many drives that started run, and then you're in 3rd and long. They felt like they were in 3rd and 7 for the entire game. Quinshon Judkins had 12 carries for 50 yards. I think that's a solid number, but he had a long of 17. So you take that long outlier away. Obviously, you don't take that away on the stat sheet, but if you did, he has 11 carries for just 33 yards. That's not very good. Averages just over 3 yards a pop. Travian Henderson, 10 carries for 22 yards. That's 10 carries for 22 yards. His long on the day was 5 yards. And why I bring this up and why I think it's so important is because it was very, very clear that obviously Ohio State was trying to establish the run. And yeah, that's all fine and well. But when you look at this Michigan team, this is a group who is led by their defensive line. They had a bunch of guys coming back who were NFL caliber guys and had an opportunity to play one more year after coming off of a national championship game. And they were their best group. On the flip side, the Michigan's worst group was their secondary. You're missing your top cover guy in Will Johnson, not Will Howard, but you're missing your top cover guy in Will Johnson. And Ohio State seemingly refused to throw the ball down the field. And when they did throw the ball down the field, they had a lot of success, right? When they were kind of throwing, I shouldn't say a lot. Will Howard was fine on the day. I would say fine. 19 of 33 for 175 yards and 1 score. He did have those 2 interceptions. But on the outside, Carnell Tate had 10 targets, 6 catches for 58 yards. Jeremiah Smith was unguardable when they threw him the ball, but only finished with 5 catches for 35 yards and 1 score. But he did draw those 2 massive, and when I mean massive, those 2 massive pass interference penalties down the field, and they just stopped going to him. Emeka Egbuka, 4 catches for 51 yards, his long being a 7-yard catch, and then Travian Henderson had 2 catches out of the backfield for 2 catches for 25 total yards. So when they did throw the ball, it felt like they had some success, and Will Howard had time to throw the ball. And more importantly, when they ran it, they couldn't do anything. On Ohio State's side, your strength is throwing the football. This offensive line, they've battled, they've grinded, and I can commend their toughness and their ability to adjust throughout the year until the cows come home. But the fact of the matter is, everyone's kind of playing out of position. Carson Hintzman slides down to the center position, and you saw a couple snaps that were rolled back today. It just didn't feel clean. Obviously, you got backups at left tackle, you got backups at guard, you got your Josh Fryer still out there, battling away and doing so in a good way. Tegra Shabola the same, but everyone's out of line and out of their positions, and it felt like to me, Ohio State was trying to win a game that was required in past years. Coach Day said it a couple times, like, to win this football game, you need to run the ball. At some point, that's not the answer. At some point, you got to be able to say, hey, to win today's game, you don't have to run the football. To win today's game, you have to be able to throw it. And guess what? We were throwing the football. At some point, you do have to abandon the run because the only thing you're doing of any relative success is throwing the ball down the field. And for some reason, Ohio State would not adjust to that concept. And I don't know if it's just me being up in the press box and being years removed from football, but at some point you got to give it up. You got to loosen that grip on the run game. And they just refused to do it. And one of the big things that really stood out to me was Coach Day was asked about that exact point in the post-game presser. He was basically asked, hey, at the end of the first half, you were struggling, had only 3 points. And then you go on a 9-play drive for 75 yards, and they did it in just over a minute, leading to a touchdown. He was asked about that and was asked about, hey, you went up tempo and you threw it. And here was his response. You be the judge.
Yep, the huddle. I mean, the tempo a little bit on some things, and some of it worked and some of it didn't. That drive, it worked, and it was in a 2-minute drive, and I thought it was well executed. But that was just 100% throw on that that drive there. I think maybe there was a run or two, but you got to stay on. You got to get first downs when you're doing that. If you don't get first downs, then it's hard.
Did you hear that? That drive was 100% throw, and it worked. And you went down the field, and you went up tempo, and you got down the field, and you ended it in the end zone. It almost was like I was watching him say that, and I was like, the light bulb just went off in his head. He was like, oh yeah, that drive that was really good that ended in the end zone was 100% throw, and it worked. And it was maybe not 100%, maybe they had a run or two on the drive. I don't have the exact drive details in front of me, but you got Emeka involved. You got Jeremiah involved. You threw one to Jeremiah deep. Right, got the PI. It wasn't a good ball, but you got the PI, and it moved the ball up the field. And then you finish the drive off with the kid who just turned 18, just bench pressing a dude off of him, get off me, and then hitting a corner route into the end zone, being wide open in the end zone there. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but that was my feel on it. Like, hey, we had an opportunity to continue to throw the football, but we just did not do it. And I want to say, bring Erwin up here. Thanks for the comment here. Yeah, worst play calling in the history of the game. I would have to obviously go back and check it all out, but kind of felt that way, right? Like it felt like Ohio State had a legit. It was like staring him in the face. Like, you ever have something just be so obvious that it's right in front of you and hide in plain sight? Like, hey dude, just drop it back. The best thing Will's doing today is dropping back, and he's using his legs. He got through some at the end of that game there, where he's breaking up in the pocket and running, using his legs to do so. I thought that was a total missed opportunity there. All right, next thing up. In these games, I think special teams is obviously the main factor, right? It's one of those where, and you have these matchup style games, and I didn't think today was. If you heard me talk kind of throughout the week, I did not think today was a matchup style game, meaning I didn't think Michigan had the horses to match up with Ohio State. And it turned out to be, I was wrong in that. After you get into the game a little bit, you're like, all right, Michigan's up today. They're playing hard. They're sticking in this game. So when your offense and your defense are kind of when they kind of cross each other out, I think that the next biggest thing is special teams. Yes, it's a third of the football game, and oftentimes it does get forgotten. But today it proves to be really the difference, right? You lose 13-10, and you miss 2 field goals on the day. Fielding missed a 38-yarder in the second quarter and a 34-yarder in the third quarter. He's 1 for 3 on the afternoon. Meanwhile, Dominic Zveda was 2 for 2, with his long being a game-changing 54-yard field goal right before half. And I thought that was incredibly important. It gave them a lead going into halftime. It gave them a 10-point lead, and then Ohio State would take the ensuing drive for a touchdown. But field goal kicking, incredibly important. And yeah, not going to bring some of these up here, but let's keep it clean in the chat here. But yeah, I mean, I think that is incredibly disappointing. And when you continue to look at the game at large, I think back to a punt I believe it was in the third quarter that totally flipped the field. The Michigan punter just drove it over Caleb Downs' head and kind of rolled it down inside the 5. And that was really what this game was going to be. It was going to be a battle of field position. And when you do that, when you execute on special teams, you put yourself in a really good place to win the football game. And you think back to the 34-yarder that was missed. That was fresh off fresh off a interception, right? Caleb Downs makes an unbelievable play on a play the ball shouldn't have even been at his, like, going towards him, but it was, and he snags it up off the ground. This dude, Caleb Downs, after all the bad that happened today, Caleb Downs and this defense out here behind me were awesome. I thought they were spectacular. I think Caleb Downs is an absolute star. He was from start to finish. Think about that 4th and 1 stop down the goal line where it was like, all right, after that play, it felt like things were going to mellow out. It'd be okay, but it never came to fruition. But Caleb Downs, I think, is a total star there. But regardless of all that, Caleb Downs gets an interception. You turn the ball over, and you have 1st and 10 from the 16-yard line. And first of all, 3 and out there is unacceptable. I don't care what you got to do. You got to get at least a first down, right? To get a first down, and you have to finish that drive in the end zone with a touchdown. But they don't do that. You need at least to get 3 points. The 34-yarder, they do it on College game day. Pat McAfee does it. I mean, I don't mean to talk down on kicker, but like I can hit that. You drop back, you step back, you just toe that thing right through. You don't even need to be special with it. You just get it up in the air, and it's going through from 34 yards. Like walk it off in your backyard. You go outside, walk off the 34 yard, and you can hit it. I mean, that one was majorly disappointing. You come up empty on that drive, and it just was kind of the story of the football game, and very unfortunate there from that perspective. Yeah, I mean, right here you go. Downs going to be fine in the NFL. Yes, Clever. Thanks for jumping in here with this comment. But yeah, I mean, I think Caleb Downs could get drafted, tomorrow. And I really, really do believe that. Okay, 2 more points here I want to get to. The first is the line of scrimmage. I think that, while I went on that rant a little bit ago that Ohio State should have been throwing the football a little bit more, while I do believe that, I do also understand that this game is won and lost at the line of scrimmage. And I go back to Ohio State's inability to run the football. We already talked about that. But I go back to their inability to stop the football. Listen to this stat line for Kalen Mullings. 32 carries. 32 carries. Donovan Edwards was the home run hitter who's been kind of the thorn in our side for the past couple of years. He only had 4 carries on the day. But let's talk Kalen Mullings. 32 carries for 119 yards and 1 score. That's a hell of a day. That's 3.6 yards a pop over 30 carries. But the one that stands out to me, a 27-yard run on 3rd and long. It was 3rd and 7. I remember the sequence very, very well. Michigan, I think there was about 5 minutes left to go in the game. It ended up being the game-winning drive. But 3 or 4 minutes, I forget the minute mark actually, but maybe it's in between 3 and 5 minutes. And on 1st down, they go back. It was his only negative rush of the day where he had a 3-yard loss. So let's think about this. You got 2nd and 13. Michigan cannot throw the football. They have a walk-on playing quarterback. Davis Warren is a walk-on playing quarterback. That's like me going to the signing up to go to school at Ohio State, walking over to Coach Day and being like, hey, Coach, I want to come out and play. It's strapping up a helmet on me. Like that should tell you what we were facing. So you're not throwing the ball. It's 2nd and 14. They're just trying to run the thing out. Everybody in the stadium knows that they're going to run the ball. And what do? They get 7 yards on 2nd down. So now you got 3rd and 6. Again, this is like 95% of the time teams are going to pass this ball. But it's Michigan. Michigan can't pass the ball. Michigan is going to run the ball, right? What do? They get it stood up in the backfield. And I remember from my vantage point, I was in the south end zone. I was in the open-ended end zone watching kind of down the line. And I believe it was Tyleek, but I'm not positive. But somebody got their big paws on him, and it looked like they had him stacked up in the backfield. Didn't get a great rally to the ball, and Mullings bounces it out, breaks a tackle, throws a little stiff arm, gets to the outside, and bang, straight down the sidelines, all the way inside the 20-yard line, and that proved to be the end of the game, right? But when you do give up 119 total yards, 42 carries on the day, listen to that, 42 carries for 177 yards, that's 4 yards a pop. That is winning football. That is a winning run game. Meanwhile, on our side of things, 26 carries for 82 yards is not winning football. And like I said, at some point, you do have to give it up. So disappointing from that perspective. All right, my final point, and then we'll get out of here. And I appreciate everybody jumping in. Is this one? This is a point that has kind of been sticking with me as this game, as we've been prepping for it all week. You've watched a lot of our shows. We've got some really great insight from our resident Buckeye on staff, Kevin Wakey, talking about how this game is on the minds of Buckeye players for 365 days out of the year. They think about it in February, they think about it in April, they think about it in June, July, August, November, September, November, and they finally get to play it out today. So for 365 days, all you think about is these 24 hours. All you think about is these 60 minutes that happen right behind you. And when you do that, you come in all fired up. You come in all jacked up, and you're almost too emotional. I said it on Monday's show or Tuesday's show. I asked Kevin, like, how do you balance that line? And he had made a comment, like, you kind of don't. Like, this is everything you think about. This is what you think about before you go to bed. This is what you think about when you're doing all the things. And at some point, you kind of see it out there today. It felt like quarterback Will Howard was too jacked up at times. It felt like a lot of these guys were too worried about the atmosphere and the emotion of the whole thing, right? It's the game. It's my opportunity. It's 3 years that we haven't won. The seniors need those gold pants. This is the best roster ever. All of the things we've talked about all year long, and you have 60 minutes to do it. When you think about it all the time and you come in and you can't handle those emotions, you can't do it. I think back to that drive where we go and actually kick a field goal, I do believe, and they get into that little scuffle in the first quarter, and then Will gets kind of knocked out, and then Devin Brown comes in. They hand it to Quinshawn off they came out, it was 4th and 1, right? And they handed it to Quinshawn. They were in that, like, looked like they were going to tush push, and then they hand it to Quinshawn, and he goes around the left edge. And, like, the whole place went crazy. Like, they just won the Super Bowl. Like, the players were hooping and hollering and pumping the crowd up and fist bumping and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, wait a second, we're losing the game. You're down to a team that's 6-5, and it's the first quarter. Like, what are we all going crazy about? And you look back through the whole game, the whole sidelines is doing the pump up thing, the crowd's going crazy. And yeah, that's great. It's awesome. It's good emotion. But the players who have to execute need to remove themselves from that. You often hear about players kind of settling in to a football game. That's what that's about, right? That's not, hey, I'm going to go crazy and I need to be, doing the Lambeau leap into the horseshoe and doing all the things. Like, no, the players who have to execute, the 22 guys or the 25 or the 30 guys who are going to be on the field the most, you need to remove yourself from that. You don't care about the fans. You don't care about the third down bells and the student section and all that stuff. You have to remove yourself from that, because the only thing you can be focused on is the game plan, is blocking the guy, is making the right call, is making the catch, is dropping back and delivering the ball and not turning it over. But it felt like Ohio State was too ingrained in everything else. They were too focused on everything else, and then all of a sudden, you look in the second quarter and it's 10-10. You're like, okay, you're waiting for Ohio State to wake up. They couldn't snap out of it. And then all of a sudden, Michigan has the lead. And then all of a sudden, you throw another interception. And then all of a sudden, Michigan's driving to score. And then all of a sudden, there's 2 minutes left to go in the game. You're at the 2-minute timeout, and Michigan's on the 1-yard line or the 3-yard line. And you're like, we're going to lose. And all of a sudden, it happens just like that, because you're too focused on what's around you and not focused on the gridiron or what's happening between those white lines. I don't know. Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's what I was able to take from it. And I really appreciate you guys jumping in here. I try to bring up a little bit more comments. It's hard for me to read and bring some of that stuff up on a live show like this. But regardless, love you guys jumping in. And we're gonna have some more reaction to it. Obviously, we're freshly removed from this. So subscribe to this channel, like and subscribe to this video. If you do, if you agree with what I'm saying, appreciate it. If you don't, tell me why. Tell me why I'm wrong. Love to hear everyone's reactions to this, because this is a big day. This is a big day in Ohio State football. Now everything's in question. You're not going to go to Indianapolis next week. You are going to drop in the rankings. You don't have the benefit of controlling your own destiny. Do I think you're in? Yeah. I also think there's a chance that you drop to 13, because guess what? Everyone's loss that they've had to this point have already happened. Yours is going to be fresh on the committee's minds. And let's not get it twisted. This Michigan football team is a bad football team. That is not a good football team that just beat you. And I don't think the committee is going to take lightly to it. So the team, the guys, Coach Day, Will Howard, they all seem to think that it's kind of a lock that you're in the playoff. I tend to disagree, but we'll see how it shakes out tonight. A ton of football left as we're recording this at about 5 o'clock Eastern on Saturday afternoon. So I know there's a bunch of games going on right now that are going to determine a lot. And then that game tonight now becomes really, really important. If Texas A&M goes down and beats Texas, you are in rough shape. I don't know that is a good feeling. It's going to be really hard for those Longhorns to go into Kyle Field and take down the Aggies. But we'll see. A lot to shake out. But at the end of the day, for Buckeye fans, this is a tough one. But this is why we love college football. Chaos at all bounds. And the nice part is, if this is the old format, you're done. Your season's over. Kiss it all goodbye. You're probably going to the New Year's Tax Slayer Bowl or something like that. But instead, with this new format, you do have life. Your heart is certainly still beating. You may be on the ground right now, but you still have a chance. So thank you guys all for jumping in and hanging out with us, hanging out with me tonight. It is a disappointing day, but the sun will rise again tomorrow. We'll see what the Buckeyes have up their sleeves. And like I said, subscribe to our channel if you like what we're doing. We have a ton more content. We'll be back with you in the morning with a film review episode, taking a peek at what the heck happened out there. Kevin will join me on there, and I'm sure if you're a fan of this show, he's going to have some thoughts. So even if you want to watch film and you want to break it down before NFL kicks off, fine, great, cool. We'd love to have you. But if you want to just listen to Kevin be really upset and really angry, he's going to be very, very animated. So we'll have that coming for you in the morning, and then we'll have some reaction shows coming for you next week. We don't know what it's going to be, so we'll keep you posted there. However, our team on our writing side is going crazy right now. They're getting a bunch of content out and doing so at a fast pace. So jump over to our site, si.com/college/Ohio State for all of our written work there. So I guess I am Anthony Moeglin. For all of our team at Ohio State Buckeyes on SI, we appreciate you jumping in with us, and I certainly do appreciate you coming in and hanging out with me tonight after our Ohio State Buckeyes lose in really, really, really disappointing fashion, 13-10 to the Michigan Wolverines. The future of this program, only time will tell. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.